walked me through the front door. And as you walk through the front door of that building, there in bold letters on the wall, it said, "Today is September 12th, 2001. I immediately got chills all the way to my bones. Obviously, it was not September 12th, 2001. It was not even September. And it was 2018. But that didn't matter. What that word was telling myself and everybody who walked by it is to live each day like it is September 12th, 2001. And to never forget what happened to us on that day. And to do everything in our power to ensure it never happens again. That's what September 12th, 2001 means. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Leading with Vulnerability podcast. You guys are all getting familiar with me. And for those of you who are not familiar with this show, my name is Yuma Barnett, and I'm the host of this glorious Leading with Vulnerability podcast. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about an event that changed my life and my career as I knew it for forever. And it probably did the same for a lot of you that are out there listening. And that event is September 11th, 2001, when our nation, our country was attacked. What a day that was. That really, it just changed everything in America as we knew it. Some of you are probably wondering, why is a 9/11 podcast episode coming out after 9/11? Today is the 14th of September, and whenever you listen to this, why am I talking about 9/11 after the fact? And I'm doing that on purpose, and I'll explain why as we go. But like I said, 9/11 changed America, the American way of life as we knew it. 9/11 was a history-altering event on the same level as the attack on Pearl Harbor is kind of what I compare it to. And for the military, 9/11 set in a chain of events that just recently ended. Well, it didn't end. It's still continuing in quiet corners of the world of 20 plus years of constant conflict. It was within a matter of days that the U.S. military had assets on the ground in Afghanistan. Then we went to Iraq, Syria. Would any of those events, when any of those things happened, had 9/11 not taken place? Obviously, there's no way of knowing. It might have happened later. It might have happened because of a subsequent attack, but we'll never know because of 9/11. Like I said there a minute ago, 9/11 was the most life-altering career and life event of my life. But like most tragedy, we can always find some examples of good that come out of them. Actions of people that motivate us to carry on. For example, the hero first responders that responded to the attacks, all the attacks on 9/11. I always like seeing and thinking about President Bush throwing out that first pitch at Yankee Stadium just after 9/11, and the patriotism, and you could just feel it. You didn't even have to be there to feel the magnitude of that moment. The countless acts of valor showed by American service members in the years after 9/11 as they took the fight to the enemies of our country in the name of justice for 9/11. It didn't matter what theater you were in, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. All of those people over there that we fought hated us and found joy in what happened to us on 9/11. And a lot of Americans lost their lives valorously, and some, have many unseen wounds from the years that we spent over there. There was the emergence of numerous benevolent organizations. A few that come to mind are like Tunnel to Towers, which provides mortgage-free homes for America's heroes, first responders, and Gold Star families. The Ranger Lead the Way Fund, which was started by the father of a 3rd Ranger Battalion Ranger who was killed in combat. And that organization has helped serve Ranger families in the Ranger community at a level that we never could have anticipated. And I'm truly grateful for that organization and the time that I spent in the Ranger Regiment, and I know they still continue to. But through tragedy, good things always come come about it. So it's a bad thing, but we got a lot of good that came out of 9/11. And then when you think of 9/11, there's a date that a lot of people don't think of, but I try to think of often, and that is September 12th, 2001. This day is very important to me, and I'm going to explain why as we go through it. But first, I'm going to share my 9/11 story. At the time of 9/11, I was entering my 6th month as a Ranger Private in 1st Ranger Battalion in Savannah, Georgia. The morning of 9/11 started like every other morning started at 1st Battalion. The alarm clock in mine and Private First Class Matthew Commons' room sounded at 5:15 a.m. Matt and I got up and did what Ranger privates do. We cleaned our room, we made our bed, shaved our face, we brushed our teeth, and we put on our PT uniforms so we could be ready to conduct PT later that morning. I don't remember exactly what we were doing there, but I know what was happening. We were probably conducting first squad's cleaning task for the platoon, cleaning the hallway, cleaning the laundry room, or doing an outside trash pickup or a police call, as we call it in the military. People who didn't live in the barracks were starting to show up to the barracks at about this time, between 5:15 and 5:45. And 5:45 was first call for the company. And what does first call mean? For those of you that might not know, first call means that's the start of the day. Meaning at 5:45, you're at work and you're dressed in the uniform that's required for the event that you're about to do. And in our case, it was PTs. From 5:45 until 5:20, we cleaned things. We polished things that were brass and shiny and made them shinier. We stretched out sore muscles from the days and weeks prior's workouts. We listened to music. There was probably MTV blaring in somebody's room in the background. And then we probably had a squad meeting before we went out to formation so we could cover the days and the week's tasks. And that's what you did from 5:45 until 5:20. 5:20, 1st Platoon, along with the rest of Alpha Company, moved outside to conduct our morning accountability formation and to salute the flag as it was raised on the flagpole over Hunter Army Airfield. The company first sergeant would usually come out of his office at about 6:28, follow us in, take accountability, and then he would follow us to a position of attention from 6:28 to 6:30. The cannon on Hunter Army Airfield sounded at exactly 6:30, signaling that the flag was going up, and we would all salute in the direction of the flag. Now, in that time, the whole company's outside from 6:20 to 6:28. 8 minutes. Doesn't sound like a long time. But that time is reserved for Ranger Games time. Some Spec 4, some tabbed E4, when I say tabbed E4, E4 Ranger with his Ranger tab would inevitably yell out, "If you don't have your tab, hit the slab." And what that meant was, if you hadn't been chosen to go to Ranger School yet, you fell out behind the formation. On the barracks, there was a little lip there, a little incline where they built a barracks. You elevated your feet on that incline and you did 25 push-ups plus 1 for the Airborne Ranger of the Sky. You get up and you get back in formation. And you were no sooner back in the formation that some team leader or another tab spec 4 would tell Ranger so-and-so or Ranger, this other Ranger, to go climb the rope. Because there were some ropes hanging from a big oak tree that set right behind the company, and we had some climbing ropes there. So you go and you climb the rope if you were so chosen. And then you'd move back to formation. And at about that time, somebody would say, if you don't have your tab, hit the slab. Back to the slab. 25 push-ups plus 1. Airborne Ranger of the Sky. Back up, back in formation, and then, we still got time. We still got 2 minutes. You can't just have 2 minutes of just standing there and talking. Somebody from one platoon would tell a private to go attack another private from another platoon. So now you have a mini UFC grappling match breakout at morning formation. And those games continued for the duration of that 8 minutes. It's amazing how many push-ups and how many ropes you can climb in 8 minutes. Out come the company first sergeant and company commander. Everybody locks it up, gets back in formation. He does his accountability, and from about 8:29, 8:28 and 30 seconds, you stand there at attention and you wait for the cannon to go off, saying that signaling that the flag is raising. Those are the longest minute and a half or 2 minutes of the day. Arguably, that other 8 minutes is pretty long. I guess this is two, so it might be the longest two. The other one's the longest eight. And it's long for one reason, and that reason is sand gnats. So we're standing there in our company formation. You got sand gnats climbing in your mouth, climbing in your ears. You're at the position of attention. You can't move. You got to show military discipline. They're biting your legs. It's just a long 2 minutes, and you're praying. Everybody is, private through sergeant through squad leader, is praying that the cannon operator and the flag detail is there on time, and it goes off exactly at 6:30, raises that flag, so you can be put at rest, fall out, and knock all those dang sand gnats off, because you inevitably, as a private, were in too big of a hurry and forgot to put bug spray on before you went out to the company formation. From 0630 to 08, we're set aside for physical training. I don't know what we did that day, but I bet with my guess here, I'm pretty close. I'm sure we went on some sort of 3 to 7 mile death run. And what I mean by death run is you run at a pace set by the squad leader, which is usually between a 6-minute pace and a 7-minute pace, for as long as you can until somebody finally falls out in the squad. And the goal as a Ranger private is just don't be the first one to fall out. Somebody inevitably is not going to be able to keep that pace for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 miles. Somebody's going to fall out, and you're going to have to slow down. And the goal is just survive. You do the run. I'm sure we did a run probably around Hunter, one of our many loops that we had there, back to the company area, where we probably did a lot of push-ups and a lot of sit-ups. After physical training is over, we've been dressed down for how weak of privates we are, and that we need to be better at things and get to the gym and run more, or go to the gym less and run more. We get back in the company, we hit the showers, get some breakfast, and we begin to prepare. We were starting to prepare for a week at the range. On this particular day, September 11th, 2001, 1st Platoon was going to the demolition range, followed by more ranges in the days followed that week. We trained, and we trained some more back in those days. Remember when I came in, it was pre-war, in the Army in 2000. We hadn't been in combat in a long time. And it's kind of sick to say, and maybe kind of sounds morbid to some of you, but that's what a Ranger wants to do. He wants to go to combat. You don't want to do all this training and kill yourself in training for years and years and never get to go apply that training in combat. That's just how we're wired. That's what we want to do. And everybody kind of thought we were training for a war that was never going to come. So much so that a lot of people, a lot of leaders, senior team leaders, squad leaders, and even some platoon sergeants were starting to get out of the military and go do something else, because they never thought that the chance to test their mettle in the greatest arena of human combat was going to happen. Range prep is a busy time in a Ranger platoon. Doesn't matter if it's 2001 or 2022. Every squad, every team, and every individual Ranger has specific tasks to accomplish, so you can get the platoon out the door and to the range on time. Our squad, I believe, was preparing the range box for the platoon. Staple guns, targets, spray glue, everything you need to be successful at the range. One squad's drawing vehicles, so you can drive to the range, and another squad's getting water and MREs. It's a well-oiled machine who have done this hundreds of times and know what we're doing. Matt and I were in our room, and we were packing our bags. We were about to spend the next week at the range. So you got to think pre-GWAT, we used to go to the range on Tuesday, and we wouldn't come back until Friday. That kind of changed because we were deploying so much. We were trying to get Rangers back home so they could have more time with family before deploying. But before the war, you went to the range, you stayed at the range. And on this particular range event, I was going to stay out there through the weekend because I was lucky enough to draw ammo supply point guard. So we'd always put the whole company's ammo in an area, and then we'd leave people there to guard it while we were at the range. So my range time wasn't ending on Friday like everybody else's. I get to stay out and play play camp out for a few more days. Lucky me. Up until now, September 11th, 2001 was like any other day for a Ranger Private. Pretty much terrible. Working and running around like your chicken with your head cut off, just trying to survive, hoping and praying that you're the next one selected to go to Ranger School so you can get your Ranger tab and be the one saying, if you don't have your tab, hit the slab, instead of the one on the receiving end of that all the time. I finished packing my bags, and I told Matt, who was still packing up a little bit, that I was heading to the arms room to draw my weapon. This meant that I had to leave the relative safety of our room and enter the hallway. Back in those days, there was no company operating facility. Your living space and your workspace were the same. You worked where you lived. You didn't live and then go to your company operating facility, work, have a platoon cage, a squad cage, squad lockers. No, everything was in one location in your room, and I wouldn't trade that for the world. That was an amazing, amazing time. But that meant you were in tight-knit, tight all the time with the platoon. And for a Ranger Private to enter the hallway was always a scary venture. You never knew what squad leader, team leader, or God forbid, Tab Spec 40 you were going to encounter when you entered the hallway, and what Ranger games were going to follow. If you're going to have to low crawl out the front door, if you're going to just have to do some push-ups, you just never knew. Entering the hallway, like I said, was it was a risk, and it was a risk you had to take, obviously, but you never knew what was going to happen. Luckily for Matt and I, our room was room 103, and we called it Studio 103, obviously. And Studio 103 was close to the exit, so I didn't have much runway in front of me till I could get out the door. I didn't live all the way down the hallway, so I didn't have to go the gauntlet every day. I made my journey out into the barracks hallway, and I only encountered one Tab Spec 4 as I was leaving out, and all he did was ask me to draw his weapon for him as well, when I was going to the arms room. I walked out the front of the ACO cough there, and if you ever walk through the ACO cough, when I say, not cough, ACO barracks, you can probably hear the chains beating against the door. The door to our barracks didn't lock properly, so when we would go on leave or there'd nobody be around the company, we'd chain it shut, and those chains would just hang there, and every time you open the door, they would slam against the door. I can hear it now as I'm doing it. I moved around, walked in the back of the company headquarters to where the arms room is, right past the AT section. Bunch of weirdos, always doing anti-tank training. Thank God I was never an AT gunner. Drew my weapon, and I started my way back to the barracks. I drew my weapon and the specialist's weapon, in case you're curious. I exited the headquarters building just the way I'd entered, back around the big red ACO wooden sign that actually I helped build and place and is still at Alpha Company today, even though they moved to a new barracks location. They took the sign with them, which is pretty cool. Back through those big steel double doors again, past the CQ desk, the company quarters desk, where you sat there and had somebody basically on guard on the barracks 24/7. When I got back into the first platoon hallway, it was not the way I had left it. The hallway was not busy with commotion of Rangers getting ready to go to the range. It was quiet. And the Rangers that did remain in the hallway were leaning on door jambs, looking in the rooms, looking at televisions, which I thought was kind of strange because we were about to go spend a week in the field, and we were leaving pretty soon. I entered back into my room where Matt, Drew, and Nick were all standing in there, which was normal. Drew and Nick were also in our squad and first squad, and they were often in our room helping prepare for the range. But they were all staring at the television, and they were blocking it. I couldn't really see it. What I expected was on the TV was Britney Spears and the music video, The Baby One More Time, where she's in her little schoolgirl outfit. Only Britney had the power to make a Ranger platoon pause for a few minutes during a range prep week, before prepping to the range, to watch a music video. It was usually a call down the hallway if you didn't have the TV on in your room or something, somebody would yell down, "Hey, Britney's on Britney's on MTV." This is back when MTV played music, right? And we would pause and watch Britney do her thing. I set the weapons down and made a way where I could see the television. Brittany was not on the screen. The screen was showing a city, which I found out was New York City, and what appeared to be a building on fire. There was smoke rising. It was an aerial shot from a helicopter, I assume. I looked at Matt and I said, "What's going on?" Matt said, "I'm not sure. I think a plane just crashed into the World Trade Center in New York." We all just stood there and stared at the TV. Suddenly, what appeared to be another plane entered the screen and crashed into the other building that wasn't smoking yet. This is a very chaos kind of time. Like, nobody knows what's going on. You got people that are in the platoon that are from New York, who have parents that work in those areas. I mean, it's just, there's a lot going on that we don't understand. Because during this time, I don't know, we started to put together that this was not an accident, that this was some sort of deliberate attack. I don't know if that came over the news that planes had started to be hijacked. I don't know how we got the information, but it was pretty quick. And then all of a sudden, I remember it like it was yesterday. Somebody yelled out into the hallway, "We're going to war." What a strange moment. You feel some excitement because you might be able to go defend. You're scared because you don't know what's going on in the country. It was just a really odd moment in time to be a United States Army Ranger in the 75th Ranger Regiment, watching your country get attacked. A lot of things happened from there. We're full bore in getting ready to go to the range. Now, if I remember correctly, everything kind of stopped with range prep, and we started doing war prep. We had a very gung-ho platoon sergeant at the time who was foaming at the mouth to test his mettle in combat. I learned a lot from this man. But we started pulling our deployment bags down and checking them and making sure everything is good. And we were getting ready, like we were preparing, like we were going to go get on a bus, go get on a plane, and go wherever we needed to go and defend the country. Eventually, the platoon leadership, the leadership went over to the company headquarters. They had a meeting. They came back and they said, we kind of talked about what was going on, and we eventually ended up still going to the range, which at the time we thought was just ridiculous. We know we're under attack. Planes are crashing in. Thousands of people are dead, and we're going to go to the range. In hindsight, the best thing that a Ranger platoon can do when your country's under attack and you don't know what's going on is go train, is go prepare. And I will say the range week and the weeks that followed had a different feeling, a different flavor about them, a different sense of urgency when we went to the range those times. And that's what we did. After the dust kind of settled that morning, we made our trek out to the range. And if you don't know, if you're not familiar with 1st Ranger Battalion and Hunter, you have to drive to Fort Stewart to go to the range, which, depending on what range you go to, could be a 30-minute to an hour and 20-minute drive. As a drive, it's down main highways. You get on the interstate and you go to Fort Stewart. The drive, the battalion's been making for years. A drive I had done many times in my 6 months there. This drive was different than anything I've ever seen and probably ever will see again. We were able to witness the immediate change in the American spirit and their American attitude. The drive to the range was chaos from the moment we left the front gate and hit the first stoplight. The show of patriotism from people as we left the range with their windows down, yelling, "Go get 'em, good luck, God bless," honking of horns. You would have thought those people thought that we were in there. We were driving to the conflict site from the front gate. We were heading out to war. There was even some very nice young ladies who gave us a good Mardi Gras send-off, so they thought, by lifting their shirts up and pressing them against the windows of their cars. It was just chaos all the way until we got off the main highway and onto Fort Stewart. Nothing I'd ever seen. The show of patriotism in the weeks and the months that followed 9/11 were amazing. On September 12th, the country was the most united I'd ever seen it, right? It was just black, white, Asian, Caucasian, African American, dog, cat, bird, mountain lion. We were all on the same page. September 12th, 2001. And what we did as a platoon was we trained. We continued to train. 3rd Battalion ended up going over before us. Eventually, Alpha Company was notified that we were going to be deploying. I don't remember exactly when that happened. And then December 2001, I deployed along with the rest of Alpha Company 175 and relieved 3rd Battalion in Afghanistan. And as they say, the rest is history. But before closing out this, let's talk a little bit about September 12th. And I mentioned earlier how important that day is to me. I wish our country could go back and be as unified as we were on September 12th, 2001. I miss the patriotism showed to our first responders, service members, like it was after 9/11. Say almost 4 years ago, I was in Afghanistan for my 16th time. And I was a company first sergeant. I was flying around checking on my guys that were in small teams doing stuff around the country. I got off the aircraft at this location I hadn't been to yet. Got in the vehicle with my guys. They drove me to their operating facilities, walked me through the front door. And as you walk through the front door of that building, there in bold letters on the wall, it said, "Today is September 12th, 2001. I immediately got chills all the way to my bones. Obviously, it was not September 12th, 2001. It was not even September. And it was 2018. But that didn't matter. That didn't matter. What that word was telling myself and everybody who walked by it is to live each day like it is September 12th, 2001. And to never forget what happened to us on that day. And to do everything in our power to ensure it never happens again. That's what September 12th, 2001 means. Now today, when I'm feeling unmotivated or I feel sorry for myself or discouraged about the state of affairs in the U.S., just turn on the news and they can depress you. I say it out loud. Today is September 12th, 2001. 1, it motivates me to get up and move. And 2, it reminds me of what the American people are capable of. I'm just sad that it takes a tragedy to ignite the patriotism in the people of this country, the greatest country on earth, that it deserves that. It deserves it every day. And hopefully someday we can get there without having a tragedy put us there. But I tell you what, it's going to take people like you and me to unite and live each day like it's September 12th, 2001. And it's more important maybe now than ever. As the years pass, 21 years, can you believe it? There's a lot of people now in our military that don't have any recollection of 9/11 and its events, or are too young to really understand the magnitude of it. That's why it's so important that we tell our stories. We tell our story, our 9/11 story. Where were we that day and how did it make you feel? You got to tell it to your kids. You got to have conversations with your friends' kids about 9/11. Because it's going to happen again someday in some capacity. Maybe, but maybe we can avert it. Maybe we can unite and remember and be like it was September 12th, 2001. So I'll leave you by saying, hey, treat today. Today is September 12th, 2001. I want to thank everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments below. Like, share, subscribe. And I promise I have guests coming back. We're trying to get them all scheduled. It's a pain. Everybody's got lives, I understand. And I hope you guys enjoyed sitting here listening to me tell a story of something that means a whole lot to me, and I'm sure it means a whole lot to all of you. So hope you guys all have a great week, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.